guys, it's Kenzie, and today's video is a book haul. It was recently finals week, and, well, when I'm stressed, I tend to shop, and when I shop, I buy books. So, I have a couple new books to share with you guys. I'm pretty excited about most of them. Yeah, let's get into it. The first book I have to share with you guys is A Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This book is told from Peleus' point of view in the Iliad. So it's basically about him and Achilles' friendship, and it leads up right until his death. I'm a huge fan of Greek and Roman history, so I've been really looking forward to reading this book for a long time. I've read the first 60 pages and it was phenomenal. A friend lent it out to me a couple years ago. I just never got a chance to finish it, so I finally picked it up and I am so stoked to begin reading it. The next book I picked up for this book haul is SPQR by Mary Beard. It is also a Greek and Roman kind of book. It's basically a funny retelling of Rome's history, politics, culture, and religion. My Latin professor recommended it to me, so I am sure it's good. If it's anything like the book he signed for class, it has to be good. The next book I picked up is The Story of X by A.J. Malloy. This is about an American student who goes and studies abroad, and she meets this lord, and it's basically their love story, but it turns out he has this dark, twisted past, and so I'm pretty excited about it. The next book I picked up is A Widow's Story, a memoir by Joyce Carol Oates. I'm a huge fan of Joyce Carol Oates. I love her writing. I love the style that she puts and how she tells her stories. And so this was kind of just an automatic buy. I think I got it from Goodwill for $1, so A+ work for me. A retelling about her life after her husband died, and it sounds really interesting, and it has to be good. It's Joyce Carol Oates, so. The next book I picked up is Under the Lights by Abby Glines. This book is told from 3 points of view, and it is about basically the high schoolers Willa, Gunnar, and Brady, and it's their love story and them fitting in their class, all this stuff. It sounds really interesting. I really liked Abby Glines' first book in this novella series, Until Friday Night. That actually may just be one of my favorite YA stories. It's really kind of basic, but it's sweet in its own way. The next book I picked up is Assassin's Heart by Sarah Adheres. This book is basically a new retelling almost of Romeo and Juliet, except it has a twist. So basically what it's about is this girl is an assassin and her family gets murdered, and she sets out to avenge them. And it turns out that the family that had her family murdered is her boyfriend's family. So it sounds really interesting. I'm super excited to read this one. This actually might be the first book I pick up. The next book I purchased is A Virgin by Radhika Singhani. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. This is about a 21-year-old virgin who is in her last year of college, and her only goal this year is to de-virginize herself, deflower herself. It sounds really funny. I'm sure it'll be good, and it sounds really relatable too, so. The next book I picked up for this book haul is Disgrace by J.M. Coetzee. Coetzee? I actually don't normally pick up novellas like this. I'm not a huge fan of, I'm gonna call this a classic, even though it's not necessarily a classic yet. Whitney Atkins, or Witty Novels, mentions it in one of her most recent videos, which I'll link down below, and it sounded really interesting, something totally up my alley. Basically what it's about is this middle-aged man ends up having an affair with a student, and he admits to the affair, but he doesn't necessarily want to take all the public ridicule from it or something, and it's basically just about his life after that incident, and I guess I don't really know, but it sounds really good, so. The next book I picked up is The Circle by Dave Eggers. For those of you who don't know, it's being made into a motion picture soon, featuring Emma Watson, which is why I picked it up, to be honest. It's a utopian novel about this, social network group. Basically, it's like a Facebook, except it's scarier than that. This girl goes to work for The Circle, and she finds out that they're actually spying on people, and she makes it her goal to stop them. and it sounds pretty interesting. I don't necessarily know if I'll be a huge fan of it. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of utopians, but I'm willing to give it a try, so. The next book I picked up is A Reliable Wife by Robert Gulrick. This is a historical fiction novel, and basically it's about this man who puts an ad in the Chicago paper saying that he needs a reliable wife. And then this girl, Catherine, responds with that she is the perfect candidate for this role. But it turns out that, like, her ultimative, or, like, her ulterior motive is that she wants to marry this man, kill him, and then become a wealthy widow. But it turns out that he has another plan, like, counteracting with hers, and it sounds really suspenseful, funny, romantic. The next book I picked up is Close Your Eyes, Hold Your Hands by Chris Bohjalian. I'm sorry, I am horrible at names. I'll be honest, I picked this book up because the cover is absolutely gorgeous, and it was $5. Luckily, it does sound interesting, so I did purchase it, obviously, but it's about this girl who lives in an igloo made of ice and trash, and she lives that way, and she lives in seclusion because her father may have been responsible for a nuclear explosion that took place wherever she was living. But it's her tale, and she ends up meeting this boy named Cameron, and they form a friendship, and it's basically her realizing that she needs to get back in society and come to terms with the fact that her father may have been a murderer and that he may have caused this explosion. And it sounds really interesting. The cover's beautiful, so I'll probably pick it up sooner than I normally would, but that is okay with me. Next book I purchased is Everything by Nicola Yoon. I actually had no idea that I purchased this book, so when it came in the mail, I was ecstatic. For those of you who don't know, it's also being made into a motion picture. It's about this girl who suffers an illness that is so deadly that she's locked in her house her whole life. She's only been in communication with her mom and her nurse. And this family ends up moving next door, and their son takes an interest to her, and basically they form a friendship. And it sounds really interesting. I'm really excited for the movie. Me and my sister are going to see it. The next book I picked up is Nemesis by Anna Banks. I recently finished Anna Banks' trilogy, The Serena Legacy. It's actually right here. But this book is about this princess who's like the last forger of this world, and she runs away because things are going badly in the kingdom, and she needs to protect herself, and she ends up... Sorry, my dog's going crazy. She ends up having to fight the king, who is now her nemesis, and I like Anna Banks' writing so far, so. The next book I have is My Sunshine Away by Emma Walsh. I also picked this book up because it has a beautiful cover. But actually, from what I've read about the synopsis, it sounds a lot like J.K. Rowling's The Casual Vacancy. This girl gets attacked in her home in like a really tight-knit community, and there's three suspects. The adoptive father, the psychiatrist, and then her stalker. It sounds suspenseful and mysterious, criminal. The next book I picked up is The Ballroom by Anna Hope. This is a historical fiction novel about this girl, Ella, who gets put in an insane asylum. And the thing about this insane asylum is that the genders are split, so there's like a girl's wing and a male's wing. And the only time that the genders are allowed to communicate with each other, to see each other, is in the ballroom. And Ella ends up meeting this man, John, and they end up secretly corresponding with each other through letters, and it's basically about them forming a relationship. Yeah, the next book I have is The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. It's the first book in the Dandelion Dynasty series. I actually didn't know it was part of a series, but it is about this world that's been divided into 7 kingdoms, and there's an upheaval, and basically it's told from the point of view of this bandit who like doesn't really care about the society, but then he meets this wealthy aristocratic girl who just kind of changes his life, and he falls in love, and he's just suddenly like, oh yes, I must defeat the king and the kingdom and get order back into the society, and it sounds really right up my alley. I'm in a big historical fantasy mood lately, so this should be fun. The next book I picked up is Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. I actually picked this book up not knowing anything about it. Sasha Ellsberg, or A Book Utopia, talks about this book endlessly, and so I just had to read it. I had to purchase it because she just has such a passion for it, and I understand that kind of passion, so I needed to see what it was about. I picked it up. I do know that it's historical. It's based in Scotland, and there's 2 different time periods, so it sounds interesting. I definitely will have to get on with this one. The next book is I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson, and this is a YA contemporary novel about these 2 twins, Jude and Noah, and it's basically them sharing their life with us through their 2 different points of view. The next book I also purchased is The Sky is Everywhere by Jandy Nelson. This book has actually been on my reading list for a long time, probably like 3 years, and I finally purchased it. I'm so glad I did, because look at this cover. Finally purchased it. I will finally get around to reading it now that I have my own physical copy. It's about this girl whose sister dies, and she's stuck between these 2 guys, her sister's boyfriend or this new guy at school. And it's basically her falling in love and her learning how to grieve over her sister and not be in her shadow anymore. It sounds pretty interesting. I only read love triangle stories, but this one does sound pretty good. So, and the last book I picked up is the second book to the Trials of Apollo by Rick Riordan, The Dark Prophecy. I don't know the synopsis of this one, and I don't want to read it because I haven't finished the first book in this series. I'm so disappointed in myself, but I'm not going to spoil anything for myself, even though it doesn't spoil much. But yeah, I kind of just had to buy this. Rick Riordan is one of my favorite authors, so yeah. Alright, that is it for this video. Comment down below what you guys are currently reading or want to read. Any books that you recommend I should read first. If you have any other suggestions videos, comment those down below. So comment, like, subscribe. Thanks, guys.